peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? I have a shocking confession to make. But first, I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of The Thinkening. I appreciate it. You could be anywhere listening to anyone, but you have decided to take this time out of your day to join me here on The Thinkening. So, I don't know everything. It's my shocking confession. I do not have it all figured out. Some things I do know. A lot of things I don't know. Some things I think. Maybe some of these things are correct. Maybe some of these things are not correct. There was a time before this country I live in, this land upon which I call home, the United States of America, wasn't a thing. But there were some settlers from different European countries who were here. There were British colonies here. The British government exercised its power at the time and levied some taxes against the people living in this land. The people felt that the taxes were excessive. They rebelled. They rebelled against a government they felt was oppressive. They won. They formed a new government. A government of the people, for the people, by the people. Taxes weren't the only issue, but they were definitely the overarching issue. But it's funny to see how far we've come and what we do with taxes now. I think of our founding fathers could see now where the United States is when it comes to taxes, U.S. tax law, tax code. They would be shocked. I think they would be calling for another revolt. Now, I'm not calling for a revolt or a rebellion because I don't think that's necessary. I think people who willy-nilly call for rebellions and revolutions don't understand that revolutions seldom actually end in good results. And the fact that our revolution ended in somewhat of a good result, I say somewhat because there was some turmoil early on, but in the long run, we seem to have ironed some things out. But history being what it is, cyclic, here we are again with overreaching taxes by a bloated government. I have said before, and I will say again, I am not against taxes. I am against excessive taxation. You put undue burden economically and undue stress economically on people and a financial system. If a U.S. company is taxed so heavily that they can function better being outside of the United States, conducting their business outside of the United States and shipping their goods or services to the United States, we should all agree that this is a problem. Now, there have been some politicians that have tried to reform and change these things, and kudos to those politicians, but they have an uphill battle. They're fighting against an establishment. They're fighting against a political system that has been in control for so long and has absolutely, positively no desire at all whatsoever to let go of this power of taxation. There's a lot of money you can shift around if you can overburden the people with taxes. When you look at the omnibus spending bill, and I know many of us don't pay attention to stuff like that, but we are in a time of heightened sensitivity and attentiveness to things like that. So when you look at that omnibus spending bill and where some of that money, the majority of that money went, I don't know about you, but I had a problem with it. And this is not new. This omnibus spending bill that was passed, this is not a new thing. These different allotments of money going into these different directions is not new. This has been going on for years, but now in this time of heightened attentiveness, we are all seeing where our money is going. The gig is up. It's no longer hidden. The information age is a blessing and a curse. The blessing is we know a lot more. The curse is we know a lot more. What do we do with that though? This is what I submit. If we need to be taxed so heavily, if the tax burden needs to be so weighty, then why are we giving so much money to other countries? Now, before people get up and alarmed thinking that I am an isolationist, I realize that the world, the earth is not, no nation on the earth is an island unto themselves, meaning that this is not 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago, the separation between Australia and the rest of Europe, or the United States and Europe, seemed like an endless chasm that could not be gapped. Not the case anymore. The world, as time has moved on, has become a lot smaller. So I am not against helping other nations if it is within our power to help these other nations. But this is my problem. You always hear different politicians, different government officials make the argument about why we need to be taxed more. We have this to pay for, and this to do, and that to do, and this to do. Okay. If we need to be taxed so heavy, then why is so much of our money going to all of these foreign countries? I always like to use this reference because I believe it's applicable to a lot of things. When you're getting on a plane, they always tell you, if an emergency happens and a plane is going down, secure your oxygen mask first before you secure the mask of the person beside you. If you can't breathe, you surely cannot help the person next to you. You got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. Okay, so let's go back to taxes. We have, unfortunately, a progressive tax in the United States. As time goes on, it seems like we're being, the population at large, we're being played. We'll take 3 steps forward and 1.5 steps back. There'll be a huge tax hike. And then some politician will come along and say, we're going to give tax breaks. But those tax breaks don't really do enough to undo all of the tax hikes. So that goalpost is continually moving in the wrong direction. And I hear all the arguments. I listen to all the arguments. Like I said, I don't know everything. I do not have all the answers. But when I listen to people argue for paying more taxes, it's kind of hard to accept that argument when you look at the amount of money that the US sends to other countries. If we are in such a situation that taxes need to be raised, then surely we should not be sending money to other countries. Surely. So one of two things is true. Either taxes don't need to be raised and we're just being bamboozled, or we're being robbed blind. Either one of those things, not good. Now, it is my opinion that also both of those things can be true. We really don't need to be paying more taxes and we're being robbed blind. Makes it even worse. I don't have the answer. Well, I guess in the most simplistic way of thinking, I have the answer. And I think there's some senators that have argued for this. I know Ted Cruz is one of them. The late Herman Cain, he wasn't a senator, but I think he was a great economic thinker. He argued to get rid of the IRS. When he ran for president, he had a plan everybody knows as the 999 plan. It was a tax plan that would eventually see federal income tax removed completely and going to a national sales tax, not an income tax and a sales tax, but only a sales tax. We don't want to pay taxes on our income, then a sales tax, then a property tax, then a this tax, then a that. You think about that. Have you ever stopped to think about how much money you actually pay in taxes? So just think about if you do get money back, think about your air quotes tax return. If you bought a car, you pay taxes on it. You buy any goods, you pay taxes on those goods. You pay taxes on the clothes you buy, on the gas you purchase. You pay taxes on your enjoyment. There's an inheritance tax. If one of your relatives leaves you money, you pay taxes on that inheritance. Now, I have recently, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I actually heard a very valid argument for inheritance tax. I'm definitely not against learning and changing my position on an issue. So I'm not going to say I'm 100% for it, and I'm not going to say I'm 100% against it. I heard some compelling arguments. Nonetheless, you're paying all these taxes. On top of that, there's money coming off the top of your check. I think we're being overtaxed. Again, this is definitely not a podcast against taxes. I am all for paying taxes. I am not for being taxed into the ground. Overtaxation is almost like being punished for hard work. And I know there's many people who argue to tax corporations even higher. The thing I don't think anyone thinks about that, humanistically speaking, just being honest, if I have a company and my taxes are raised, what do you think I'm going to do? Whatever service or goods I'm offering, I'm just going to raise the price of those things. I'm not going to eat the extra added cost of this raised tax. What some companies do or have done in the past is they've moved their company offshore to a different country where the tax laws are a little less burdensome. That shifts jobs. That shifts an American company to a foreign land. Now that American company is a whatever insert country name company. I think it would be within our best interest to keep as many companies within the United States as we can. Again, I always say this because people get it twisted when you start talking about your country thriving. That doesn't mean I don't want to see other countries thrive. That only means I want to see my country succeed. I can want my country to succeed and your country to succeed as well. But this tax situation we have in the United States needs to be fixed. I'm with Ted Cruz and some other senators that call for abolishing the IRS. And again, I'm not saying that because I'm against taxes. Like I said, to the contrary, I have no problem paying taxes. I do have a problem being overtaxed, which is why I started with what I said about the founding of this country. One of the biggest issues, one of the biggest things that led to the American Revolution was people were fed up with being overtaxed. Wasn't the only issue, again, for the history buffs out there, but it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue. And here we are with a progressive tax in the United States, where that burden and that weight is just getting heavier and heavier, and nobody seems to care. I think it's time that we all started paying attention, and I think it's time that we all started paying attention when new taxes are introduced or anything is done with tax law. Y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.